Big problem coming up this Sunday in Indianapolis. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to Cardinals Daily. I'm the angry Cardinals fan, Eddie Law. Hit that sub, tap that bell, send a like, leave a comment. Here we go. Apparently, our very own Kyler Murray has a foot issue. We got to talk about something that might have flown under the radar in that brutal Week 5 loss to the Titans. Everyone's focused on the Marvin Harrison fumble, the blown lead, the Drew Petzing play calling, but here's what most people don't realize. Kyler got hurt. Yep, your starting quarterback took his foot in that game, and while he stayed in the aftermath might explain a lot about how the Cardinals' offense suddenly looked like it hit the brakes in the fourth quarter because of the foot, possibly. I think it's more, Drew Petzing being, ass, but still. So here's how it went down. Midway through the third quarter, with the Cardinals driving deep into Titans' territory, the offense incredibly, inexplicably imploded on a weird miscommunication. Murray's in shotgun, 26-yard line, and before anyone's ready, boom. He's out there for a hold, snaps the ball early, hits him right in the face, drills Kyler right in the face mask. That ball's loose, Tennessee pounds on it. Now that's bad enough, embarrassing and all that. Then Kyler got up limping, shook his foot, grabs at his shin, heads straight into the blue tent before walking to the locker room. 2 plays later, Jacoby Brissett's under center. He gets, for a second, Cardinals fans were holding their breath, thinking, here we go again. Luckily, Kyler comes back into the game 1 play later, but something changed. His movement didn't look anywhere near the same. The zip on the ball was okay, but that explosive burst we known from Kyler, it just wasn't there. There was a couple of moves where he could have actually took off running. Didn't do it. Looks like he couldn't do it. So here's where things get weird. Up until that fumble, the Cardinals were rolling, right? Up 21-6, dominating time of possession, controlling the game. But from that point on, the offense shut down, right? And the calls got safer, weaker, more predictable, depending on how you feel about it. And the routes got shorter, and the creativity we've seen earlier in drives vanished. When asked about it after the game, Drew Petzing admitted he had to adjust, right? He said it didn't have a huge effect on play calling, but there were definitely things on the call sheet we had to back burner or stay away from. Translation, Kyler was not 100%, and they knew it. The quarterback who thrives on extending plays and improvising suddenly became a pocket passer, and that's not who he is. We know that, right? Once the Titans realized it, they started pinning their ears back, playing press coverage. We never recovered. So here's where the concern really kicks in. Jonathan Gannon said this week that Kyler's status is day-to-day, and he's not practicing right now. He did not practice today either. That's not nothing, right? We've seen how cautious Cardinals are with injuries, especially after last year. So if Kyler can't move the way he wants to, or if that foot limits his escapability, you can kiss that dynamic offense goodbye. This team cannot afford to have a banged-up Kyler in a conservative game plan. That's a combo that's basically a death sentence in today's NFL, and will more than likely get us a loss. So, especially with the Colts and Daniel Jones coming up here next week, or this weekend. That Titans game wasn't just a loss, it was a warning, right? If Kyler's not 100%, Petzing's play calling can't save him. And Gannon's got to decide whether he's going to protect his quarterback, meaning like protecting for the season, or protecting for the game, right? Because if Arizona keeps playing not to lose, we're going to do that. We're going to lose. So Kyler's foot might be sore, might be injured, but if this offense doesn't find its footing fast, pun intended, it's going to be another long, frustrating year in the desert. On the flip side, maybe we can see we have Jacoby Brissett. Maybe he's a veteran that can get us through the rest of the season. Who knows? Still no official word on what the injury really is, and they're going to keep that under wraps. But safe to say, we'll know. Well, they'll know pretty sooner than we will, but we'll know by Saturday, I think, maybe Sunday morning, whether or not good old Kyler Murray is going to play. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here. Don't hold your breath. With the history of the Cardinals, I'm leaning towards he's not going to play, but we'll see. On the other hand, special return, right? This week is going to be special for not just for the Cardinals, trying to get it back on the winning ways, but wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. is going home. He's headed back to Indianapolis, the city where his dad, Marvin Harrison Sr., built a Hall of Fame career catching passes from Peyton Manning. Now, Jr. gets to play in the same field and in the same building, under the same lights. But this time, his dad's name would literally be looking down on him from the Colts Ring of Honor inside Lucas Oil Stadium. Look, MHJ knows to focus and stay on the folks that stay on football, right? But he said all the right things, right? That's about winning. It's just another game. But let's be honest, this has to mean a little bit more for him. You guys don't know, MHJ was only 6 years old when his dad played his last game in 2008. But even at that age, he remembers the atmosphere, the jerseys, the energy. He said, quote, "It's going to be a special game for me for sure," end quote. Who could blame him, right? He grew up watching his dad dominate that very city. 13 seasons, countless highlights, and eventually a gold jacket in Canton. One of Marvin Jr.'s most vivid memories was being at Lucas Oil Stadium as a kid when his dad was inducted into Colts Ring of Honor. He said it was surreal. Seeing all the numbers, all the 88 jerseys in the crowd, hearing the crowd cheer for his father now, and now 14 years later, he's stepping on the field as an NFL player himself. And, the stats between his father and son at this point in their careers are nearly identical. You know, after 22 games, Harrison Jr. has 82 catches for 11, just a little over 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards, and 10 touchdowns. His dad had 90 catches, 1,114 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Eerie symmetry. Almost like destiny's been setting this up for years. So this isn't just another football game. It's a full circle moment for Marvin Harrison Jr. He's not trying to live in his father's shadow. He's walking right alongside of it. So this game in Indy isn't about comparisons or legacy. It's about continuation. Marvin Sr. built the foundation. Marvin Jr. is building the future. And when he walks out of that tunnel on Sunday and looks up to see his dad's name hanging in the rafters, that's not pressure, that's pride. And if you think that's not going to light a fire under his ass to go out and go off against the Colts, you have not been watching what this kid's capable of. And I fully expect whether or not Kyler plays, he's going to be fed the ball quite a bit. I would venture to say if Jacoby's playing, it's going to be Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride, and that's it. No one else getting the ball. We'll have to wait and see. All right, folks. Hot take time. And this one's going to be a little out of left field-ish. You'll get it as we go. Our wide receiver core is one of the bigger question marks in this offense in my mind, right? Besides Petzing's boneheaded play calling. We have Marvin Harrison Jr., but then it sort of falls off from there, right? A little bit. Michael Wilson's not really a wide receiver too. Then we got Zay Jones, who's good, but he's also not a wide receiver too, I don't think, and so on and so forth and all that. So I was thinking, who's available that can come help Marvin redevelop, but also get in there and play a little bit? Keep in mind, the mindset on this is that we clearly aren't doing a damn thing this season, and unless we have some crazy come to Jesus moment in the front office and the changes that need to be made are made. But I was watching The Pivot. If you guys don't know, The Pivot is a podcast with Ryan Clark, Channing Crowder, and Fred Taylor, and they had none other than one of the flashiest receivers to ever do it on the other day, Odell Beckham Jr. That's right. The headline man himself is back in the news, but this time it's not about a one-handed catch or a touchdown celebration. It's about a 6-game suspension. OBJ revealed in The Pivot podcast that he's officially serving his suspension for testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. A test, he says, was a mistake, right? He's now 33 years old. The former superstar is owning up, saying in hindsight, he probably shouldn't have served it out. He probably should have just served it out last season. But the real story here isn't just a suspension. It's what it says about where Odell's career is at right now. Let's rewind. So last year, OBJ had already been through the ringer, right? Another knee surgery, missed time, right? Then finally returned to the Dolphins for 9 games. Showed flashes, right, in I think it's Coach McDonald's offense and everything, but he wasn't the same explosive player he once was, right? So right when it looked like he was getting in the rhythm, right back in the rhythm, positive PED test. Now Beckham says he failed because he took the shot. Okay. So what he says, because I watched it again today to make sure I knew what I was talking about. He says his testosterone levels were higher than expected compared to earlier blood tests. He insists he never knowingly took anything, and honestly, it's believable to an extent. You know, he's had multiple ACL tears, a shattered ankle. If there was ever a time for him to juice up, it would have been then. But he didn't. He's always been a grinder, it seems, right? So the problem is, intent doesn't really matter to the NFL, right? They could care less. The results do. And once the numbers came back elevated, it didn't matter what the reason was. It's a violation, period. You know, Beckham said himself, quote, in hindsight, I should have just taken it. Actually, I should have just taken it, end quote. And yeah, he should have just taken the punishment last season. The delay only keeps his story alive longer than him off the field longer, and he's only getting older. So now, here's where it gets interesting. I don't think he's done, right? He says he plans to return late this season around week 11 or 12 once his suspension is up, and he's fully embracing a new reality. He's a role player now. He's not a star player no more. He said he's ready for fewer targets, less attention, and a supporting role. That's pretty huge for a guy who was once a headline every single day. Now, he admitted that last year was, with Miami, he wasn't mentally ready to get 2 or 3 targets a game. That humbled him quite a bit. It forced him to look in the mirror. He had to realize he's not 2015 OBJ anymore. He's a veteran trying to contribute, not carry. That's the kind of self-awareness rare in this league, but it only comes from older players who kind of aren't wanted anymore, right? Especially from someone who used to be the biggest star in the sport. He's not chasing highlight reels anymore. He's chasing relevance. Here's the thing. Does anyone really want him? Right? OBJ's still got name value. He can sell jerseys, right? For sure. But teams aren't lining up for a 33-year-old receiver with suspension, declining numbers, and a long injury history. So he's talking about joining a team late in the year after week 10, hoping for a playoff contender needs a veteran's presence. And honestly, that might work, right? Team like the Chiefs, I know they just lost and everything. The Ravens just lost as well. Cowboys could use him. Maybe the Rams could bring him back. He's got familiarity there with Matt Stafford, but still. This is a far cry from the OBJ who once shut down entire stadiums with 1 catch. This Odell is trying to find a way to stay in the league. And if that means being a wide receiver 3 or 4 in a playoff team, credit to him. Most stars don't have the humility to make that adjustment. OBJ is chasing redemption, not relevance. That PED story definitely hurts, but it doesn't define him. It just shows that the chapter of OBJ, the superstar, over, right? That thing's closed. The chapter of OBJ, the survivor, that's begun. He's been humbled, tested, and forgotten by some fans. So if he comes back in December, makes the OBJ, it makes the OBJ comeback story. It might not be pretty, right? His comeback with the suspension and the PED stuff and all that, but it's not over yet. And I think the Cardinals should be paying attention. OBJ might not be the explosive highlight machine anymore, but he still brings what could transform this Cardinals offense. Look, we need a veteran playmaker. MHJ is a future, but he's still growing. Michael Wilson's been solid, but he's inconsistent. Kyler Murray, he needs a guy who can win one-on-one, bail him out on broken plays, and help him stretch the field. Someone with experience, a lot of experience. OBJ is not going to be wide receiver 1, but as a 2 or 3 on our team, I think it works. He can still run crisp routes. He knows how to read coverages, and he thrives off timing and rhythm. Exactly what Kyler needs when the play breaks down. Now, don't forget the locker room impact. This is the team still finding its identity. Beckham's been through wars, Super Bowls, injuries, controversy. And he's come out and the other side humbled, admittedly, right? So that kind of presence could be good for a young offense still learning how to finish games. If the Cardinals are serious about competing in the AFC West, they should be the team calling OBJ when the suspension ends, not to save the season, but to stabilize it and maybe teach a little bit here and there. Give us veteran presence in that locker room, especially to that wide receiver room. A healthy, motivated OBJ in this offense, that's leadership, reliability, and swagger, which we need some swagger on this team. 3 things these teams have been missing since number 11 retired, or didn't retire. He just kind of quietly went home. Call it a gamble if you want, but sometimes the right veteran can spark, can light up an entire locker room. Now, is it a long shot with him having to serve a 6-game season, 5 games into the season? Absolutely. Have we been doing anything that makes any sense lately anyway? Screw it. Let's make it a circus. At this point, do that. Sign OBJ, trade for Shedeur Sanders. Let's have a party the rest of the season, because what else are we doing? We're not going to the playoffs. This team's not going to the playoffs, right? Like, we're 5 games in. We know good and damn well that this team is not set for the playoffs. And it starts at the top, right? This is part of my hot take, but it has nothing to do with OBJ. Let's get into it. Jonathan Gannon's not the guy. He's shown that. He's shown it. 3 years into this thing. Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't turn it around, that he couldn't, finally next season get it together, right? 4 years in or whatever. Andy Reid was criticized every single year. He had good teams, but he couldn't win the big one. Could Gannon have the same story? Maybe. What this season so far, well, the last 2 years and then this season so far has shown me is that Gannon, he's still trying to find his footing. And we could say that, but he's trying to find his footing on Camelback Mountain. For those that don't know, it's a pretty rough mountain, depending on what side you're climbing up on it. Here, that hikers do all the time. But he's trying to climb that thing with church shoes on. So every time he thinks he's got his footing, slip, falls. Slip, falls, slip, falls. It's not going to work, right? And he has Drew Petzing ahead of him, putting his arm out, except Drew Petzing's arm is like, a foot long arm. He's got little ass arm, no grip strength. That's what's happening right now with this team, okay? What bothers me about Jonathan Gannon is he refuses to make any moves. He clearly sees that there's problems with the offense, that the play calling is a problem. Petzing himself has said he didn't like his own calls. And you're the head coach. You hear that, and you don't do anything. That's a problem. That's a man that's scared to move, in my opinion. Not scared to move in terms of making other moves, but scared to tell his own staff, like, hey, no, you're not doing it. He's slowly losing the respect of the team, specifically the veterans, right? Now, veterans like Calais Campbell have been around forever. He's seen everything. He was on his team back in the day when we had Danny Green, and and then I think, was he around for Danny Green? Maybe not, but he was around for quite a while. I know he was around for BA for quite a while. He has a lot of respect for Bruce Arians. And so he's got to be seeing this like, this guy doesn't get it. He's not ready. So I think the Cardinals have a problem at head coach, but I think it's worse than that. And I'll talk about this next time. The problem, the biggest problem the Cardinals have is the guy cutting the checks. And that's where I'll leave it today with my hot take, folks. Next time I will definitely bring that up and clarify what I mean by that. But it's something I've been thinking about for a minute. And I know a lot of people talk about, what are you going to do, sell the team? And I'm like, man, that'd be nice. Hopefully to someone that doesn't, whose livelihood isn't tied to the team, right? All his fortune's tied to the team, has $1 billion company or whatever on the side here, and is wanting to keep the Cardinals in the Valley, right? Very hard to move a football team, but we've seen it happen quite a bit here in the last 15, 20 years. All right, folks, that's gonna do it for this episode of Cardinals Daily. I'm Eddie Cuevas. Don't forget to hit that sub, hit that bell, leave a like, leave a comment. And make sure you follow the new socials here, both on X and Instagram now at Cardinals Daily 1. On both of them, there's going to be graphics, short videos, stuff like that. The links to these videos and all that. Follow it. I'll follow back on there. Tell your friends, and then come game day, especially away games, come hang out over on X, and we'll talk about the game throughout the day. All right, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday. A couple more days here till we find out if Kyler's playing or not. I'd rather have him playing, but if that foot is definitely injured, if it's injured, maybe let Brissett cook. We'll see. You guys have a wonderful day. Catch you guys tomorrow. Go Cardinals.